Okay, it's happening. They're all backstage. I swear, it's happening. We're talking Usagi. Welcome back to JV's Budget Collecting. And before they get away, I'm going to bring them all in. So, first up, we got, man, Louie, what's going on? How's it going?
Doing pretty good. How about you?
I'm doing good. Did you turn your volume down? Like, I can't hear you as good as I could when we were backstage.
Is this better or?
There you go. Now I can hear you better.
Okay.
Yeah. All right. We got our man Louie. We got Mr. Alec, Whitewell Comics. What's going on, my friend?
Not too much. I was very tempted to exit out of the backstage when he said everyone's back.
I was afraid of that. And I figured you'd be the one. Well, yeah, you were the next guy, and he's still there. I think he's doing some hurried finishing up reading here. We got Jerry the King of Aficionado. What's going on, man?
They're all here. So sure are you? Like,
well, at that moment you were all here, so I figured that was
for a minute.
For a minute. So yes, we are talking book 3 of the original Usagi run by Fantagraphics, The Wanderer's Road Tonight. So I am curious. It's been a while since we dug into this, but the nice thing about Usagi is you, for the most part, you really can just dig into it anytime. It doesn't, while there are reoccurring characters, that kind of stuff, there's not necessarily a through storyline through a lot of this. Occasionally you do, but like this stuff, this particular volume is mostly a bunch of one-offs.
Yeah, it's not like, reading 10 issues of Sandman and then waiting 6 months to read the next 10 issues.
Yeah.
Or a year and a half for Saga.
Yeah. Or
2.5 years. 2.5, yeah.
4 years, 3 years. What was it between Saga? So I am curious. We'll start with Louie. What was your impressions of this volume? What did you think just overall of this set of stories?
I really enjoyed them. It was so, like you said, like you can just jump into any issue. You really don't need any context for anything. And I was trying to understand why I've been liking Usagi so much, and I think that's why. Is because it's just. You can read that in any order, essentially. Well, not with the
Almost.
spot one, but it really is just made to pick up and read. And they plant seeds for things along the way. Like we start to see some things, pay out from past volumes. But yeah, I've just really been enjoying it. It's not like I'm trying to think of how to put it. It's like a normal comic book nowadays where it's 6 issues an arc. I know it's going to end now. It's just, this
serialized fiction, yeah.
Yeah, serialized. There you go. Thank you. But yeah, it's just really fun.
Yeah. I mean, there are definitely, like I said, reoccurring characters, but even when they reoccur, there's usually enough in the issue at hand that you don't really need to know that background necessarily to enjoy that particular issue. Alec, what about you? What did you think rereading this volume after probably quite a bit of time?
Yeah. Well, first I want to point out that I bought it digitally kind of at the last minute and realizing that it appears to be back in print.
Oh, it is back in print.
Is it?
On Amazon, I saw a paperback for $15. So I was like, son of a gun.
I bought it. Yeah, I got it digital because I could.
Yeah, I did too.
I ordered one. So, I ordered a used copy off of Amazon that was reasonable, and they had a picture, and it was okay, that's actually a decent copy. I ordered it. It came. It was volume 2. They sent me the wrong book.
Oh no!
So I had to send it back, and then I was just okay. At that point, I was like, nope, we're just doing the digital.
But to actually answer your question, I really enjoyed this volume. There was a certain I know this is going to be a weird word to use for Usagi Yojimbo, but there's a certain maturity to this volume compared to the other ones in some of the themes.
Yeah.
So I thought that was cool, little departure from the first couple of volumes where it was certainly moments of seriousness, but it had kind of a much more lighthearted tone. I felt whereas some of these things are pretty heavy.
Yeah, some of this is pretty dark. I mean, not super. I mean, not super dark, but for you compared to tone wise,
right.
So I would definitely agree to that. Jimmy, what about you? What do you think of this volume?
Oh, I would agree with the with my my fellow readers. Yeah, no, it's definitely more. It's maturing in the writing style and the themes that's there, and I do enjoy that. You know, it kind of picks up. I mean, some of the critters stuff was that way too, just little shorts. But we did start off with the volume 1 having a few more multi-issue storylines.
Right.
But yeah, no, this one's good, and I like some of the repeat characters, like the blind swords pig Zatoino.
Yeah.
He's always a lot of fun.
And
I mean,
the
those
rhino.
are the two. I feel like those are the two main ones we get consistently. Or
Yeah,
the blind swords pig we've gotten several times. We've gotten, but again, his rhino friend, the other wandering samurai.
No, he's a bounty hunter. There's a difference. Yeah.
Oh yeah, bounty hunter.
He's not a Ronin. He's a bounty hunter.
They're such a good duo. They're like the odd couple. They balance each other perfectly, like yin and yang. It's really funny.
Wow, that's awesome. Way back in '90. That's cool.
Wow.
So they do. I mean, their personalities work so well together.
And I think that they're like.
Oh, sorry.
Go ahead.
I was just gonna say, I think that they're more alike than they wish to admit. But
yes.
But that's something I liked in this volume is how they basically just admit they're friends finally. Like, we all have known this, but now that they're actually saying it, it's just nice. It's just like, oh, okay, you guys know too.
It's maybe not the healthiest friendship, but
yeah.
Not so much. No.
Well, yeah, the whole thing where he's like gonna leave him, and then he comes back, and he's like, yeah, because he's trying to take advantage of him, and then he still does sort of like
threatening to kill each other, and
they try to stick each other with the bill again, but then they just end up
they both bail on it.
Yeah, they both bail on the bill. And so, all right, well, let's dig into this. So first up, we had The Tower, which was kind of, for me, maybe in some ways the least interesting one of these, I would guess. I mean, he comes into this town, and basically there's this guy mistreating some animals and his customers and everything else, and he tries to help this animal, and that one for me, I don't know, that one did not work as well for me. It was I just thought it was a little odd. What did you guys think of The Tower? Start with Jimmy.
It was a good intro story, because it set up the next couple of issues, where he's got his traveling companion, the lizard.
Right.
Yes, it was a bit more pedestrian of a story, but still more of a fun one, lighthearted, especially in comparison to the next couple.
I agree with that. What about you, Alec? What did you think of The Tower?
I mean, I would agree. It's probably one of my least favorite stories, but I did really appreciate how it showed his patience and his commitment to doing the right thing, where he's just the story is basically like that this restaurant owner runs the lizard up a tower, and he's just waiting for it to fall, and Usagi goes up there to help it, but it's a wild animal, so it doesn't let him just pick him up or anything. And then it starts to snow on them and all this stuff, and they start chopping down the tower, and he never gives up on this little animal, which really he has no relation to at that point. He just knows it's the right thing to do, and so he does it. But it was a little slow.
Yeah. But it does. You are correct. It does definitely show his thought, that he's gonna try to do the right thing no matter what. What about you, Louis? What did you think of this volume?
Yeah, I'd agree with all of them. It's really slow, and reading it, I was just like, why are we spending so much time with this lizard? But then you get to the end, and it's like he invites him with him and everything. It's like, okay, I can forgive it a little, but I feel like we didn't need this issue. But it's like Alec was saying, it did show Usagi's characteristics that we already kind of know, but just showed how committed he is to doing what's right.
So I feel like sort of, and maybe I'm curious what you guys think. Whoa, that kicked me out of the thing. Like for me, it sort of felt like he was testing out whether or not he wanted to give him a traveling companion, and was like, no, after just like a couple issues. Like, did it feel like the whole lizard storyline that goes through these next couple issues? Did it feel like that to you guys? Like, it was like,
Yeah,
maybe
it was
maybe
like
I should give him a companion, and then he was like, no, he doesn't need one.
I don't know if it was like a test or it just was like kind of like one of those things where he didn't have someone to balance him for a couple of storylines, so he's like, I need to introduce something, but he didn't want a new character. And then obviously the lizard goes with the rhino friend in
The pig, the sword pig.
Swords pig.
Yeah, I found it really strange because it's like, he's a Ronin, so he should be like wandering alone. I was like, okay, I guess we can do this. It'll be a little different. And then he immediately just ditches it like 2 issues later. And I don't know if that's just him setting up something later, because it just feels like through all 3 of these volumes that he's just been setting things up.
Yeah.
And we're
It's
about
funny
to,
though, the idea of him being a Ronin and supposed to be traveling by himself, but like basically every issue he's traveling with somebody.
But that's part of the lesson that's taught at the end of the story, is that I should I'm a Ronin, I should be traveling alone. My life just brings more turmoil, and you seek one more more peace. You'll find better companionship with him. So I mean, I think it more speaks to the samurai and the Ronin,
the ideals.
The ideology of it. So maybe it was just a way of expressing that.
I can see that. And I do think it worked, like, and we'll get to that issue in a minute. I do think it works how they kind of wrap it up, like sending him with somebody who has a very different goal, what he's trying to achieve. Like, he's just trying to find a place to find some peace. And so I do think that definitely works. Anything else you guys want to save for the tower before we move on to A Mother's Love?
No.
Yeah, I felt like that one was pretty straightforward. So let's get to this. He meets an old lady on the road and follows her back to her village and finds out her son is kind of the evil guy overseeing the village, is basically taking advantage of all the villagers. And
Loan shark.
What?
Yeah,
he's a loan shark.
Yeah, loan shark in town. And so what did you guys think of this one? We talked about a little more mature or darker tones. This one definitely has that a little bit for sure. Alec, I'll start with you this time. What did you think of this one?
Yeah, I mean, this is a great issue. It really it ran the gamut of kind of like emotion and what makes these comics so good. Because so he finds this old woman out in the woods or whatever, and they share a meal together, right?
Yeah.
And then she's like, "Oh, it's going to take me forever to walk back. I don't want to slow you down." So he gives her
a ride.
He carries her back to the town, and she seems like this really sweet, like motherly woman. And then so then he gets to the town and finds out that basically everyone in the town hates her because of her son.
Yeah.
And her son's like basically a crime boss. And should I spoil the end of the issue?
Yeah, go ahead. We're talking about it. We're going to.
There's more to it than that. He's not just a crime boss, but he's cruel to his mother. And Usagi won't stand for that, and he stands up to the guy, and so he wants him gone. But she doesn't want to lose his companionship because he actually treats her like a mother would treat would be treated by her son. And so she wants to
at one
keep him
point
around.
he calls her mother, and she's like, "Oh, I haven't heard that in a kind way in so long."
Yeah.
So it's like it's really sad leading up to the end where clearly she is struggling with this, and it's kind of killing her in a way. And she actually asks Usagi to kill her son for her.
Yeah.
And he's like, "No, I'm not a hired sword. Like, that's not what I do." But it doesn't stop the guys kind of thugs for going to go after Usagi, and then he realizes that she was left alone with the son and thinks that, he's running back in saying like, oh, if you hurt her, it's going to be your head basically. And when he gets back to the house, he finds out that she actually killed her son.
Yeah. And she actually,
during the fight,
to get his guys to go after Usagi rather than be there so she could do it. She basically told them all that he was going to do it, that he was going to come and kill him.
And she's like, I'm sorry I used you like that. And like, please kill me because I don't have the guts to kill myself. So please kill me for doing this. And, he refuses. But it was a real shock.
Yeah. When he comes in and sees what she's done, like he thinks, he's anticipating the opposite.
And also, it's one of the few times where there's actual blood shown. Yeah. Like, obviously he kills a lot of people, but this is one of the first times where you actually see blood. And it was like a very, it's very cartoony and silly looking, but at the same time, like, it was very impactful.
Yeah.
But my favorite part of the issue is where it's those like series of panels where he's staring down the sun when he first meets him.
Oh yeah.
Oh, it's beginning.
You just see the sun start to break over time, and he's just steadfast staring.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, because the sun's like trying to be a big shot and kick him out. Here, I got it.
You got it.
Because he's kind of an ass.
Yeah.
And the sun like thinks he's tough stuff, but you can just see like the intensity and the seriousness Usagi has, where he's just like, "Oh, you're gonna mess with me? I don't think so, buddy." Yeah. Like that's, he doesn't even have to say anything. That's all he has to do.
Yeah, the false tough guy versus someone who actually like
doesn't need and like doesn't really need to flex his muscles more, in a way where he can just kill you with a stare, basically.
Yeah.
But yeah, anyway, I feel like I talked too long about this one, but it was.
No, you're good. So that's what we're here for. So, Louis, you got anything to add to what Alec said about this one?
I mean, no, he pretty much covered everything I was going to say. I mean, something that he did bring up was like with the blood in Usagi, just all throughout. I've noticed that like doesn't really show any blood. They'll just do like that funny cartoon face. It's like they're dead or their tongue's out.
Well, yeah, the little spirit skull coming out or whatever.
The little skull in the thought bubble.
Yeah,
my favorite one.
Like, I don't know if he's not doing that just to like make it more kid friendly, or if it's more so like when we do see blood at instances like this, it's like strikes to the core more. Because that definitely struck to me like when I saw him laying there with his mom and the blood was there. I was like, oh, that's crazy. Well, the fact that you killed your son, that's crazy. But then, like, not used to seeing the blood in this series, really.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely, I think part of it is to keep it kid friendly, I think that he does the little cartoon thing for that people, but also a lot of those don't necessarily have a lot of impact. They're like hired thugs and stuff that Usagi ends up fighting or whatever. And whereas this is meant to try to carry more of an impact, that like this is a mother who actually, her son was evil and she decided to kill him in order to like, to try to set things right. Which, I think, there was definitely a purposefulness to this that, to make it a more of a serious moment. I mean, and that page is like even the top panel with the blood and then her crying over him and, and then her basically begging Usagi, which is in the center of like later, is like, begging him to do it and him turning and being like, no, this was your choice. This is, you have to now deal with those consequences. And yeah, it's just really well done. And you see that it does, even as much as he's seen, it still like affects him. And no, I just thought this whole issue, if the first one was my least favorite, this one I thought was in many ways the most impactful one we've had to this point emotionally and a deeper dealing with themes. What about you, Jimmy? What did you think of this one?
That was probably my favorite of the group. I think it definitely struck a chord more, to the character and to the reader, in being able to show that depth of emotion, both early in the story and throughout its development, particularly to Usagi, who's both appalled by her actions, but still shows love and respect to her, even after she takes her own life.
Yeah.
Yeah, strong story.
Okay. Has anybody got anything else to add?
Probably
to
the
that?
lowest amount of action in the entire group, but definitely the better story.
Yeah, for sure. Anybody got anything else before we move to the next one? All right. So next up, we got the return of the blind swords pig, which we had seen before is not necessarily a bad guy, but he just seems to like rub people the wrong way, and he gets himself into situations and basically kind of forced a fight on Usagi the last time. And so we see him return. What did you guys think about this one? Jimmy, you want to talk about this one first, or you want?
Sure. It's more of a fun one. It's the whole revenge shtick, where
Yeah.
the blind swords pig Zato comes across an inn and finds that Usagi was there, but not before earlier on being set upon by a group of swordsmen who tried to take him out, only to be alerted to their presence by Spot, the lizard that's traveling with Usagi. He returns back to Usagi, and Usagi leaves, and Zato arrives at the inn that he was at, and sniffs him out with his cunning sniffing through a wooden
nose.
a wooden
nose.
Which I don't understand how that works. But
prosthetic. Yeah. Well, I guess it just focuses, but he's got a little bit more. He's got a little bit more sap in there than the original Schnoz. Because that was his his heightened sense, because he's blind, was his nose. So he finds that he questions the innkeeper about where did he go, and he says he's staying at a house just down the lane, and Zato finds him and challenges him to a duel, only to find out later that the lizard that saved him, that alerted him, was actually traveling with Usagi and is his friend. So because he saved his life, he spared Usagi's. And then, as we spoke before, Usagi found that it would be better if he, because he also, the lizard also had kind of an attachment to Zato. So he sent him along his way with Zato to be his companion, somebody who actually needed it and who doesn't do as much fighting as Usagi does.
Yeah. So
fun story. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I thought it was a good. It was a good. Hang on. So sorry, it was jumping on me on the thing, but I thought it was a good follow up to the original. Because we'd seen in the original that, like, Zato, he's not necessarily bad, but he has a lot of anger, and he has trouble like controlling when he feels like he's been slighted or whatever, and it gets him into situations, even though he claims he just wants peace. Like he struggles a lot, and I thought this was a
quick-tempered.
Yeah, and I thought this was a good kind of follow-up, and I'm sure probably at some point we'll see the blind swords pig again. I almost hope we don't, like for me, but I'm sure it probably happens. But Alec, what did you think about this one?
Yeah, this is another one that I definitely enjoyed. One of the things that I thought was really interesting about it, much like the blood from the last issue, is that this might be the first time we see someone actually injure Usagi in any way, where the blind swords pig comes in and he's kind of mouthing off to him, and he says, they're about to kind of throw down, and it's nighttime, and so he cuts the candle to make it dark in the room, and so he's like, now I have the advantage because you're not used to not seeing, and I am. And he manages to cut Usagi on the cheek, which, it's kind of like, he seemed so invincible up until this point, and then you're like, oh well, he's not without imperfections, or he's not this magical invincible fighter. So I thought that was interesting to show that he is that he can be injured, but also show like really how powerful this other swordsman is, because no one can touch Usagi, and this guy manages to. But yeah, I mean, I thought
in the dark, sure.
Well, hey,
evening the playing field.
All right. But yeah, I mean, the ending was very sweet, where he, because the Cthulouie, when he first meets the lizard, he thinks he's going to find this new pal. Then he goes running back to Usagi. So the fact that like he gets to have this new friend at the end was very, very nice.
What about you? What do you think of this one?
Yeah, I thought it was really fun. That's something I've noticed about Usagi so far is Stan, he will do something really heavy, and then the next issue will just be fun. Like, we got a cool fight out of it. We get to see what the swords pigman can do. And it's like what Alec was saying, showing how good he is that he touched Usagi. I know, JP, you said you don't want him to come back, but he probably will come back.
I don't know. I just feel like this is a decent ending of him like finding a companion, and maybe I guess he doesn't truly find peace because he's still wandering. But like it wouldn't hurt my feelings if he that was what was implied, is that he went and found peace. But that's probably not going to be the case. I'm sure there's going to be more, So
and I feel like that's like what it is, like demonstrating how great of an ally he's going to be to him later on at some point, I'm assuming. Because how many volumes of Usagi are there?
1 billion.
Yeah, billion.
Well, no, this run goes through, I want to say 38 issues, something like that. So I think there's 4 more volumes at least in
and
the.
Then there's how many volumes of the Dark Horse run, and then how
the
many
Dark Horse run was like 150 issues or something like
and then
that.
we're 28 issues into the IDW run, and so there's a lot.
Just a couple.
Yeah, there's more than enough room for him to come back and be an ally.
Sure he does. I'm sure he does.
Yeah,
but
I just like how Stan was able to just show us that. Like, remember, hey, anything's ever going down, we have some friends out there. And then even like, is it the next issue or the issue after we get Jin back?
Issue after, I think, because we get the the next one's the Blade of the Gods. But So yeah, I would go ahead.
I was going
to say, like, showing all these allies that he has, and then at the very end, he says, "When will I meet? What's his name? Hijitsu, or what is it? Like the human in the first volume."
Right.
Oh, the guy that killed his master.
Yeah.
Or his lord, I guess I should say, his lord. Yeah.
Yeah, I can't think of his name without looking at it, but
starts with
but then showing his potential allies, and then saying like, I wonder when we're going to cross paths one day. It's like, okay, now I can start to see where we're going, because the previous 3 volumes, like, it's all been fun. There is story. We're heading somewhere, but now it just seems like there's an end somewhere. You know what I mean?
I don't know about that.
not an end, but like an end game to where we are right now.
Maybe. I think he just. Yeah, I haven't read some of the newer stuff, but I think he just continues to just kind of wander. I think eventually there might be a showdown eventually with the guy responsible for his lord's death, but I don't think that he's still going to be a wanderer.
Oh, no, I don't think it's going to end Usagi. I meant like more of a showdown with him.
Yeah.
I did think it was a kind of a weird little moment where they first meet again, and the Cthulouie is like there basically to try to kill Usagi, but he also like makes a joke about his own nose. Said, because Usagi says, "You've got a new nose, I see," and he says, "Yes, it's made of wood. It's a transplant." And I was like, that's just. I mean, it was funny, but at the same time, it's like that's kind of a weird tone to set right before you're about to kill somebody.
Yeah, it seemed out of place for sure.
Well, but to me, it kind of sets the tone as like, like they had hit it off. They were friends. Like they were becoming friends. And then Usagi found out he'd done something, which he blamed that the townspeople just tried to because there was a reward because he'd done something a long time ago or something, and the townspeople went after him, so he defended himself. But either way, Usagi, they came to blows. But I think they actually enjoyed each other's company the whole time, and you can see it at the end when Usagi says, "I hope you both what is it? How does he say it? I forget the exact line here, but let me get to it. You have a good life, both of you." He wants him to find the peace that he's looking for. I think he understands he's not necessarily a bad person. He's a person though that has made some bad choices, and
but he didn't want to fight him in the first place, and he repeats that that statement is I didn't want to fight you before. Why am I fighting you now? Because he wants revenge for taking his nose.
Yeah.
But it was his own arrogance that led him there in the first place.
Yeah,
confusing Usagi with the ones that were fighting him already.
Okay. Anything else before we go on to the Blade of the Gods?
That one's fun.
So let's start with Louis this time. We'll let you go first. We went last the last time. What did you think of the Blade of the Gods and this guy? This guy is...
Yeah, that dude is crazy. But then at the end, it's were you though? That's what I liked about it.
Yeah. I mean, you just look at him and it's he's he is something for sure.
But yeah, it was fun and it was creepy.
He definitely a frightening character, and another person that seems to be pretty close to Usagi's level when they actually fight. Alec, what did you think about this one?
Yeah, I mean it was cool. It's definitely this air of this really bad guy. And even at one point kind of catches a glimpse of this blade of the spear that this guy carries around. He says, "Oh, I thought it was black for a second," which it is, but because he's your blade is a reflection of your soul. So he's saying this guy has a black soul, and he's in this cabin with him, and no matter how many logs he puts on the fire, it doesn't seem to be getting warmer. Until finally they kind of fight for quite a while. This is a very prolonged fight scene, which visually was rendered very nicely. But kind of not a whole lot of story for 4 or 5 pages where they're just kind of swinging at each other.
This definitely feels like the first super villain of Usagi. You know what I mean?
He gets hit by lightning.
Yeah.
They both get hit by lightning, and then...
Well, yeah, it strikes the tree, and then it strikes him in the midst of the fight when he's talking about how he's the true warrior of the gods, and they would protect me, and he gets skewered by the lightning, and nothing but a burnt out blade left when Usagi comes back, wakes up.
Which, I know this is a comic book and it has some supernatural elements in it and stuff, but if you got hit by lightning, you wouldn't just disintegrate. So the question is this guy still alive?
Or was he ever?
Right.
Yeah, it's definitely the most... I mean, for a book with, animals as people or whatever, I mean, it's the most kind of supernatural, odd thing we get here, this guy. Because what's going on with him? Because, I mean, earlier in the fight, Usagi thinks he strikes a fatal blow, and yet the guy's just oh, I'm hurt, and then they're right back to normal. And then, the lightning and everything else.
Cut your leg off. It's just a flesh wound.
Yeah, I mean, so there's definitely a little bit of the supernatural going on with this one that we have not seen to this point. Usagi a little. I mean, I guess we've seen some creatures and some beasts too, but like, I don't know. This guy is just a little bit further along that path than I think we've seen to this point. But I thought he was a fun villain. I thought this was kind of I mean, he's a very dark character. Like the whole scene where they're in the cabin and he just, as he's sleeping, he just like dreams and then wakes up and is like, "You're evil," and attacks him. And, like the god spoke to me in my dreams, and it's just like.
The first time we see him, he's murdering a well pronounced lord, in front of his men. Like, you know, he was the most gentle, lord we've ever seen. Why did you kill him? Oh, the god said he was evil.
Yeah.
He definitely, like, as we talked about before, a lot of the, like, kind of foes of Usagi, there's a lot of gray area to them where they're like, maybe they see things differently or they have some sort of disagreement, but at the end of the day, like, he never really paints anyone as being evil. Whereas this guy, like, felt more like a supervillain to me.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, definitely more supernatural.
And you do get like these panels where like even when he can't see him, like the eyes are just all white and like, they're definitely giving him like
he speaks in a different font.
Yeah, he speaks in a different font with a different style around the word bubble.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
There's
very demonic.
They're trying to draw attention to this is not like a normal foe, and this is not something that there's something going on with this guy beyond it. I mean, we don't get the full explanation, and maybe we do at some point, but it was, I don't know, I just thought it was a lot of fun. Anything else on this one before we, like, you guys got anything to add to this one before we get back to our old buddy, old pal, the Rhino in the next one?
Well, yeah, we can't move on just yet.
Okay.
The Crossing.
Oh, did I get them out of order?
Oh, no. Well, it was the... Oh, don't tell me it's not in the thing. It's the backup story.
Oh, there's no backup story, at least in the digital one. Oh, no, that's at the very end.
It's at the end of the...
Oh, is it the end for you guys? Okay.
Yeah, it's at the very end.
We'll wait till the end then.
Yeah. So that one's probably out of order compared to how maybe they were released, but it's in this trade. It's just at the end.
Yeah, so that's in issue 10 where we see the I don't even remember his name, but the demon.
Yeah. So yeah, the next one in the trade is the teacup.
Gotcha. Okay.
So and it's basically Usagi walking along minding his own business, and there's his old buddy again, like in a fight with a bunch of guys again.
Just like a huge brawl.
Yeah, he's just like, I'm gonna make myself.
Well, and what does Usagi do? He just sits there and watches, which is awesome.
Yeah, he just is like, oh,
and
like we're winning. It's good.
This dude is straight cutting samurai swords in half with his blows.
Yeah.
Well, he is a rhino.
Yeah, that's fair.
But he is. Yeah, and I love it. Like he gets done, and Usagi's sitting to the side clapping. It's like, huzzah, huzzah!
Such skilled swordsmanship.
Expert swordsmanship. And he's just like, why didn't you help me? I could have been mulched. Which becomes a running joke throughout the rest of the thing. Mince you into mulch or whatever. He's like, it looked like you were doing fine.
What's mulch?
So, Alec, start with you this time. What did you think of this one and the return of our friend Gin?
Yeah, like I said at the beginning, I think like their interactions and the way they pair off each other is really some of my favorite stuff. So I really like
me
this
too.
one. It was a lot of fun.
And I do think this is, for me at least, this is the first time we see a little deeper side of Gin. Up to this point, it's mostly we've seen it from Usagi's side.
Yeah.
Of their interactions, and Gin kind of trying to pull a fast one on him occasionally or all the time. And I do like that we did get where he was telling him the story before, but like I do that we get to see a little bit of this more from Gin's perspective. What do you think about that, Alec, before I move on to the others?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not a big fan of a lot of expository dialogue. But, he can get away with it because he's thinking it to himself, I guess. So he's not explaining it to someone else who already knows it, which is the thing that really bothers me most of the time.
Right.
But they find these two kids who are starving on the street, and Usagi wants to help them and feed them, and Gen is like, "Oh, get these brats out of my face," basically. And he's trying to get this teacup back to this lord he gets getting a reward for this teacup. And at one point, he tricks Usagi into giving him a fake teacup to draw away the people who are after them. And Usagi accidentally breaks it, and he's like, "Oh, I'm so sorry, I broke it." He's like, "Oh, I stole that from the inn. Are you kidding me? That's not the real one." But so that was very funny. But then, you find out that the reason why Gen kind of like is being such a jerk about these kids is that he sees him in them, because like he was an orphan kid and he had a tough childhood. And so by the end of the issue, when he finally gets the teacup back to to get the reward for it, and Usagi's like, "Well, you can pay for lunch. You just got all that reward money." He's like, "Yeah, I gave it to the kid's uncle so they could, have a home where they could afford to take care of him."
Well, the fun part about that is that like, so they keep stiffing each other with the bill at the end,
right?
And so Usagi sneaks out and sticks in with the bill, and he's like, "Oh, I gotta go check on these kids," and then they run into each other in the street. He's like, "Hey, sorry about that business with the bill." He's like, "What are you talking about?" He's like, "I told the innkeeper's wife you'd take care of the bill when you went to go wash your hands." He's like, "I told the innkeeper you'd take care of the bill when I to wash my hands." So like, come to find out, they both stiff the innkeeper. And then at the end, they're leaving town, and like the townspeople are like waiting for them.
Yeah.
Look out.
So yeah, I really enjoyed this one.
Yeah. What about you, Louis? What did you think of this one?
I love whenever they're together. They're just like a buddy cop movie. Like
I love when they're arguing. Usagi's face.
Right.
Yeah. Like even in the way like they're drawn in the issue, it's like almost completely different. Like there's this one. Let's see if I can get that there. Like that.
Yeah.
Like their faces
when they're in the
there,
boat.
like,
yeah.
Yeah, and the one you just showed, like they're just drawn funnier. They're always in some type of hijinks together. I just love it.
Jimmy, what about you? What do you think of this one?
Well, the ones with Gen are always fun.
Yeah.
And they're always trying to, do over one another. Well, mostly Gen to start, but yeah.
Yeah.
But it was
good to get some. Usagi's always trying to pay him back.
Oh yeah. But it was good to get some insight into Gen's history and his, kind of his origin, a little bit. He's irritated by the children because they remind him of, what he went through growing up. But it's definitely a fun story.
Yeah, I really like those 2 pages. Like Alex said, there's a lot of exposition where when they're camping or whatever, and everybody's asleep, and he starts to wander off. He's like, and you get to see his, that he does actually like think of Usagi as a friend, and that he does, and he knows his own weaknesses. He's like, it's like, if I had any conscience, if I wasn't so conniving, I'd just leave them and let them go in peace and continue my mission on my own. And he's like, goodbye. And it's like, well, money always wins out. And he ends up coming back just in time, which actually helps them because he helps alerting to an ambush. But, it's just, he knows his own nature. And I enjoyed that we finally got to see a little bit of Gen, from Gen's point of view, I guess, or the relationship from Gen's point of view, and not just from Usagi. So, but yeah, he's definitely always a lot of fun. See, anything else here before that? No, we got one more, but before we go into the Shogun's gift here at the end,
I'm good.
So we get we flash back to, we get more characters that we've seen before. We get this young Lord Noriyuki, and his the panda.
You're a panda.
His retainer, who I'm not sure what she is exactly. I'm not sure.
She's the bodyguard.
Well, I know she's a bodyguard, but like his retainer, but. What kind of animal she's actually supposed to be? Is she?
I think she's a cat.
She's a cat.
No, I think she's a bunny,
Yeah.
isn't she?
Maybe.
No,
I
it's
don't
got
know.
two short
Tiny,
ears.
tiny little ears.
Yeah.
Hang on.
I kind of
Yeah.
thought she was a cat.
It's possible, but she could just be a bunny with long hair.
Maybe, but
Short
yeah,
ears.
I was
Yeah,
waiting for-
we'll go with cat.
But and we've seen her, like the start here. We've seen her often, like that she's skilled, but obviously nowhere in Usagi's class. But we see it like she has a good moment here. Like she senses danger here at the beginning, and then we get a feel for just how good this ninja guy is that's trying to steal the sword. That's supposed to be a gift to the shogun, and trying to face this family. And again, it's the guy that's always messing with everybody. So who have I not asked? Jimmy, I think maybe it's your turn. It's what did you think of this one with the stealing of the sword?
Very good. Very good. This was definitely one of the better ones. So they're following a ninja who snuck into the castle to steal the Muramasa blade. And Usagi kind of just, comes across him by chance in the woods as he's in his disguise, trying to sneak out of the territory. And he just kind of keeps putting himself in his path. The guy sneaks off in the middle of the night and he's like, I wonder what he's doing. He goes to the border town where he's kind of holed up because they're doing security checkpoints. And so he's like, hey, you again. How you doing?
Yeah.
At
this point, he doesn't know anything. He just senses the fact that this guy's up to something.
Well, because he ran into what's her name?
The cat.
What is it?
Yeah,
Tomo.
the cat lady.
Tomo.
Tomo. So he runs into Tomo when she's heading out to the border towns and alerts him of the what it was, and she's like, I sensed that that there was trouble, and I stabbed him. Looks like I got him because he he left a little bit of a blood trail. So when he comes across this guy, and he says, "Oh, I injured myself with my axe," and he's like, "Well, that looks like a that looks like a staff wound. It's not. It's my axe."
Yeah.
It's like, all right, that
which was a very cool but funny moment where she stabs through the ceiling, and she punctures him right through his leg, but he takes off his mask and wipes the blood away as she's pulling it back, so the blade comes back clean.
Yeah.
But I mean, I've never stabbed anyone through a ceiling before, but I feel like you would notice if you hit something. I feel like you would feel the resistance pulling it back out. But that's neither here nor there.
Super sharp blade,
support beam or something.
Yeah, super sharp blade, probably cut through the meat, really easily without too much, because it went right through him and didn't hit the bone, so there wasn't a lot of resistance, And there's an expectation there might be something up there that she might have hit. And if she did feel like she hit something and she pulled it back out, but the blade was clean, she would think that if I got something, it would be bloody, as she states, but it wasn't. So maybe it was just a support arch.
Yeah.
Cross support.
Louis, what did you think about this one and the little adventure here as Usagi, like Alex says, just kind of keeps knows this guy's up to something, but just kind of keeps following him around?
Yeah, I loved it. I don't know why I didn't expect to see Tomo again, or Lord what's it, Niyuki or something like that.
Gosh dang it, Noriyuki, yeah.
Yes, him. But I don't know why I didn't expect to see them again. But I mean, a lot of the time it does feel like you kind of wrap up with these characters. Like, we could leave them there, but obviously we're going to keep running into them. So I don't know why I was so surprised. But I loved seeing Usagi just showing his smarts, just being a detective. Like, oh, okay, you hit yourself with the axe. That's odd. And instead of just letting it go, or just even bringing him in, then he's just like, let's just hang out. Let's just see where this goes. And he just keeps pointing things out. It's like, oh, that's weird. You're going to go sell your wood over there, huh? And just
definitely
be his own foil.
It's like a battle of wits the whole time.
Yeah.
Well, I really enjoy once he's got it figured out, how he basically he meets these woodcutters that he's met before and helped before, and he just stashes the sword with them because he knows they're going right to the capital and it'll get found. It's just kind of he's he tricks the guy long before he actually like has the final confrontation. The guy's already lost and just doesn't know it. And
Right.
He's just
Well,
playing.
it's like,
at that
like
point.
Bruce Lee says, in Enter the Dragon, it's the art of fighting without fighting.
yeah,
Like he won the battle when he didn't have to draw a sword.
This time, try again with feeling. Oh wait, that was Kentucky Fried Movie.
The art of fighting without fighting. Show me some of it. we can take this boat.
so anything else, you guys?
This
About
one,
before we get into turtle
this
soup
issue-
and rabbit stew here to wrap this up.
this issue, I don't mean this in a bad way, but it felt longer. Was it more pages?
I think it might have
definitely
been.
was like, it was.
Yeah,
thicker.
you're right. It definitely felt longer.
It was just chock full of story.
117 to
Maybe 2 pages.
137, 138, so 21 pages.
I guess
So not a lot longer. No, it's basically kind of the
I
same.
feel like it had maybe more panels.
Yeah, I don't know. Just the story, like especially compared to something like the Tower, the story felt like much more complex. But I really liked it. This whole volume I enjoyed quite a bit.
I would definitely agree with that. Like I think for me the only the Tower was the only weak one, and I still enjoyed it. The rest of them I thought were really solid, for sure. So then we get our little crossover. We get a little Usagi meets the turtles, one of the turtles. So what did everybody?
Nice.
Leonardo.
Alec, what did you think of this one?
I mean, it was such a tease. Like it's so short. I wanted more. I wanted to see them actually fight. So basically, like Leonardo gets teleported into Usagi's time, and they end up like basically in this fight, not knowing they're on the same side, and they're the last two people standing, of course, because they're the most powerful swordsmen. And then they both see each other and think that they're one like the last enemy they need to defeat. So they kind of line up to charge each other. But at that exact moment, Leo gets teleported back, and Usagi runs into a tree, and Leo runs into a wall. And
like Usagi's like, I hate Ninja, because he's running at him, and then he just and he crashes.
Crash.
Yeah.
And then
And on the other end,
in Leo's apartment, for some reason that he's in, there's like a picture on the wall that says mom and dad and they're turtles, which doesn't make any sense.
yeah.
Dad
Dude,
looks like the one with
it's
the
turtle
mustache.
soup. I mean, come on. It's not like it wasn't like in canon.
Right. And there's even I don't know if this is in the issue, but in the trade, it specifically says on the first page, this story is not in continuity.
Yeah, no, I don't think it does. I think the whole idea of turtle soup was just not
Just to have
it was just a fun
other artists do turtle stories.
Because that story is actually done by Stan Sakai, and that one was printed in Turtle Soup. Now the fun part is that the follow-up story, The Crossing, which is the backup in Usagi 10, is done by Peter Laird.
Oh, well, that's not actually in here. The Crossing.
What?
Just the Turtle Soup.
No,
is
it's
in
just the turtle soup.
Oh.
You're kidding?
No.
Oh, that's ridiculous.
Yeah. So
All right.
It is not. I mean, it talks about them. It talks about that the Crossing was 10, like here, looking at the beginning. But
Maybe it's in
Oh,
volume
yeah.
4.
they probably printed that with some volume of the Turtles or something because Peter Laird did it, and they printed this one with the Usagi stuff because.
All right, solo me out.
Because Stan did it. So.
So the follow-up story shows Usagi talking to a couple of kids, and one's being a little bit, unkind to the other one, and he starts telling a story about, and this is totally the story of the, oh my god, what is it like? I forget it. It's like two animals. It's like one, cross the river with me on your back, and then the other one rolls over.
The scorpion on the front.
Yeah. How do I know you won't sting me? So Usagi sees what does he call him? He calls him a chubby priest sleeping by the river, and all you see is he's got a hat on and a robe, and he says, "Take me across the river." So he goes to take him across the river, and then all of a sudden Usagi falls into the river, and he struggles to get to the other side. And he sits and he waits, like, where did that priest go? Where has he been? And it's been like 5 minutes. He's been underwater. He must have drowned. And he walks out, and it's Leonardo. And then you got a little asterisk here that relates to, oh yeah, it's the same one from Turtle Soup. So they do a little showdown in the water.
Oh, they actually do fight in this one. Okay.
Yeah, they do fight in this one. He's like, because Leonardo was insulting to him, so they definitely fight. And down here, you can see he goes for a killing stroke and slips in the mud and winds up on his back. So that gives Leonardo gives him the win. So he tells him, he's like, yeah, you are a strong swordsman. Or I should say that all the stories are true. But they become friends, and he finishes the story with the young ones, and then they wander off. And it's like, you can be the swordsman. He's like, no, I want to be the turtle. So
Nice.
It's a fun story with like I said, with pencils by Peter Laird. Well, pencil and story by Peter Laird. So
Yeah,
I'm just really surprised it's not in there, because it's the cover,
Yeah, that is odd that they didn't include it. Interesting.
Yeah.
So
That omission. Maybe, I don't know. Maybe it's in the next one, but should have been in there with turtle soup and rabbit stew.
you would have thought so. Okay. Well,
Who knows?
we're right almost at our hour. You guys got any final thoughts on this whole volume and of Usagi here, book 3?
Keeps getting better.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
I would agree with that.
Both in story and visuals, like his art continues to get better and better.
Strong evolution. I mean, us starting with the character or this early on and kind of seeing where it goes.
Yeah, I think I really enjoyed the book 2 where we got his backstory, but I think overall, even though these are a bunch of kind of one issue one-offs, I think definitely more solid for me, as a group, from beginning to end. So Louis, what do
still
you think
more
about
background happening too, right? With the Neko Ninja are the foot soldiers of Lord Ikiji, who's the one who killed his master. So it's like there's still that little underlying, story arc that goes through there.
Yeah, we're still, like Louis said earlier, I think we're moving to, at some point, I assume there's going to be some sort of showdown with Lord Ikiji at some point. So
One would only hope.
yeah. So now how far along that is, maybe it still never happened. I don't know, 400 issues later or whatever there is total of Usagi. But Louis, what do you think about this volume as a whole? Just kind of any final thoughts?
I mean, I've really loved it. It's really weird for me because I only really started reading indie stuff maybe 2 years ago. I was strictly the big two.
Yeah.
And it's odd to not be stuck in that serialized fiction stuff, because it's of course there's a continuity here and characters are coming back and stuff, but you can just pick up anything and read it and it's a fun time. We're not specifically heading towards something. I mean, we are, but it's I'm not expecting it every time I'm reading something. I'm not expecting anything from it, but I'm having fun.
Yeah, agree with that. Alec, you got any other final thoughts?
No, dude.
Okay,
I've said my piece.
All right. Well, I want to thank we've had between 5-10 people in here the whole time. I want to thank everybody that's been watching. I appreciate it. I don't know that Louis or Alec really have anything to promote for their channels at the moment, but if you do,
I'm playing D&D with you on Sunday.
Well, yeah, but Jimmy, you're going to be live. You're normally live on Thursday nights. You're going to be live
I am
later?
live in 30 minutes with Superpower Review and Newbie Comics. Sadly, Vancouver Comic Junkie will not be able to join us tonight, but I do have those two guests for What Do You Hunt? So that's coming up in less than 30 minutes on my channel at 8:30 Central.
All right, and you're dropping content a couple times a week at least, like just
3
other
times a
videos?
week: Tuesday, Wednesday, and Saturdays for recorded videos, and Thursday for live shows.
Nice. And I got my usual weekend stuff coming up, and yeah, we got the look back on Saturdays, whatever report Saturday nights, Cash or Trash Sundays, and D&D Sunday nights. So that is lots of stuff coming up as usual. And then Monday, we got round 3 of the Kamigori Winter Olympics. We're doing the slalom with, I'm going to forget, Not Near Mint, Rob Worst, Mr. Comics 89, Comic Con 84, and I always forget one person. I don't remember who the other one is.
And what's this event?
So this, if you remember, during the Summer Olympics, we did long distance run where you had to only pull from one run. For the Winter Olympics, we're doing the slalom. You can pull from 2 runs, but when you pick your run on the first Kamigori, you have to go back and forth the rest of the way. So, So we got like,
you can't do another one from that run. It's got to go to the next run.
You got to go to the other run, and then you got to go back. So, Mr. Comics 89 is doing ASM, of course, and then he's doing Volume 2 of Superman, and
A surprise.
yeah, and then I think
Did I tell you?
Kenny's doing X-Men, Volume 1 of X-Men, and then I forget what his second one is. So, but anyway, there's a bunch of I don't think there's any overlap in the runs that everybody's doing, between the 4 of them. I think they're all doing something different. So
Nobody's doing Batman?
Somebody's doing Batman. I just don't remember who it is. So, that might be Rob might be doing Batman. I forget. But anyway, that should be a good time. So with that, we'll get out of here so Jimmy can get ready for his show. Again, thanks everybody for watching, and we will catch you next time. Later.